Welcome back to Caffeine Confessionals. We are here to talk about the Challenge All-Stars Season 3 finale. Champions have been crowned. Season's over. My name is Allan, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host. We have the Southern Luke Muncie.
What's up, guys?
And the lovely Vermontian Zoe Trimboli.
Hey, everyone.
We got a final. And the craziest thing about this final is that there wasn't anything screwy to it. There wasn't like a twist where someone felt robbed or we came out angry. Just the two best players won. And it was kind of boring, but this is how a final should be.
Yeah, I agree. Like, the only thing you could consider screwy is like the elimination at the beginning, but even that was point-based, so it wasn't screwy. I think the two best competitors won.
Yeah, and the two people who performed the worst in the final went home in that elimination. So it all just kind of lined up the way that it seemed that it should.
We all were waiting for the moment of those like 5 bonus stars that Nehemiah and Johnny got to like result in the winner of the season being screwed up, and people were like, "Oh, this person was robbed. This person." Nope, it didn't even matter. It didn't even matter. And if you're watching this podcast, we are going to mention who wins this season in about 30 seconds. If you haven't watched the show yet, go out and watch it because we're going to be talking about the winner and we're talking about their path to winning and everything that happened in the final just in a minute. Whew. We're just counting down because I want these people to click out the video. I'm going to say it in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3,
Johnny!
2. Yeah. Yes. Congratulations to Wes Bergman and Johnny Mannion. This is Wes's 3rd challenge championship. And this is Johnny's 2nd straight back-to-back challenge championship. She's the first female to win back-to-back seasons since Sarah Rice on X's 2 and Rivals 3, and the first person to do it in consecutively airing seasons since Veronica Portillo back in 2004. So she made history, and if you count this as 3 straight championships, because she finished first on All Stars 1, she's the only woman in challenge history to three-peat. It is an incredible performance. She is the face of the Challenge All Stars franchise, and it's crazy because if you asked someone 18 months ago what they thought about Johnny, they would say, she was kind of okay. I loved her, but like, her resume wasn't that great. I mean, she'd never been to a final, and now 2-time champion, a lot of money in her bank account. Ooh.
She's something else. Like, I'm right there with you, and I know Zoe is too. Like, I loved Johnny back in the day, but like, there was no part of me that was like, oh, she was robbed of her win. She should be a champ by now. Like, she was a solid competitor, but like, it's not like she was in the running for the best that never won. And I feel like she's definitely not even redeemed herself, but she just like reclaimed her challenge legacy. And I love that for her, which makes me want to ask, do we count All-Stars wins as like actual wins? I think in my head, yes.
I think so. It's not like the Champs versus Stars series where that is different and they're playing for charity. I think this is totally legit. Especially when you have players like Jordan and Kayla from the more recent seasons that are on All Stars. I am like so overwhelmed with how happy I am for Johnny. It's hard to put into words. Like, yeah. I just think that she's such a cool person, and her trajectory of her challenge career, and just I think of all the moments where she was not treated the way she deserved and how she was just like run down by partners or like put in weird situations. And hey, Zach Nichols, I'm looking at you. But man, I'm just so excited for her. She earned it flat out. She deserved every second of it. She was one of the top female competitors all season, and certainly the best female competitor in this final.
Yeah, I've been Johnny fan from like day one. I always joke that like there's like 4 Johnny fans from the beginning because I was blogging about her when like, because I was like, I think Johnny was amazing. I once wrote a blog where I'm like, well, there's a path where Johnny becomes a 2-time champion if these 3 things happen, and people were like, she never made it to a final, right? Her elimination record 2 and 5. I'm like, I don't know. There's just something about her. I don't think she has any weaknesses, and I just love her. I love that she validates my crazy theories about her because I think Johnny's fantastic, and she is just such a perfect like character for people to relate to because she kind of checks every box when it comes to like people see Giant Bananas and he's just an egotistical douchebag, and there's like all the male bros who are gonna like him and the people who are like, oh, he's funny, type of. But John A, I mean, if you're a woman, if you're a person of color, if you grew up with a rough upbringing because she was like adopted and stuff like that. There's stuff like that where people who don't have confidence, people who are really into glamour because she's gorgeous as well. Like people in every like section of the world can like really relate to Johnny in different ways, and that's why I think she's like a perfect face for the show, and I'm so happy she's had all the success.
She's a mom too.
Yeah.
That is so fucking crazy. Like coming on to the first All-Star season after just having a baby, like she's so badass. She's the best.
And she wins with grace. Like she so could have come on this season cocky. I do think she came on confident, but there's obviously a difference between cocky and confident. And I loved after her winning sequence where she said, All-Stars 1, I relied pretty heavily on Jimmy. All-Stars 2, I relied really heavily on MJ. And this season thrust me into kind of like, I've got to rely on myself. There have been pitfalls. There have been moments that like I could have given up. And she didn't. And also this season 2, you can't say she coasted to the final. She won an elimination. Like she had to win dailies to secure her safety. I just feel like this is like, if All-Stars there's 3 seasons and it's done, she has sealed the deal that she is the Challenge All-Star. I'm so happy for it too.
And my friend was asking, like, how do these people still sleep on Johnny when they compete with her? And like the thing is that she's just not an outwardly dominant in like one type of thing. But challenge finals, they attack your weaknesses. And Johnny is solid across the board. She's not gonna have one thing that's gonna bring her down completely. And like sometimes that's all you need. Like you don't have to like we see people in the show who have dominant strengths, but like if you can't eat, you're done. If you can't do a puzzle, you're done. It's just that's what it comes down to. And Johnny is just so solid across the board. I love watching the confidence she's gained. And also, we had another winner who's very confident in himself, Wes. And I think it's really important to note his championship wins have come in the years 2006, 2013, and 2022. They are that I can't imagine anyone having such wide of gaps between 3 different championships. And on top of that, it's the fact that he's won it as wildly different types of players. Like Wes is not an all-time great, because he just has like otherworldly athleticism or some I don't know, super talented skill. He adapts and he changes like who he needs to be. He keeps the same ego. He still has the same ego, but he's changed the way he's played the game. He's changed his body. He's changed the way he's trained for the show. Like he really locks in on the mental parts of the game now because he knows he's not the athlete he was back in the day, and it's really impressive.
Honestly, you saying his last championship is 2013, I was like, that's not right, but it is. But he carries himself in such a way that I'm like, oh, he's won a recent season, and it's crazy that he's not. But what's funny is I read your blog post, Allan, about the finale, and also like the first episode. Wes came out hot, and I remember seeing people say like, oh, like he's being overly edited, like there's no way he's going to carry this all season, like he's going to get caught up. He didn't. Like he's so annoying, and I've said like the past 4 podcasts, he's so grating, but like he does it in a specific way that like led him to win.
Yeah, grating is the right word, but I couldn't, like, he deserved it. No matter how maybe personally annoyed I was by him saying he's going to buy a Lamborghini, you can't help but know that he totally deserved it. And he crushed every part of that final as well. And you mentioned something about people sleeping on John A. I think the men were totally sleeping on Wes this season. Like, I don't understand how you can have such a big personality like him, and at no point anybody's thinking like, oh, this guy's like probably smarter than me, and he's like really composed, and he's been to quite a few finals. He was in the War of the Worlds final, which was nuts. Like, maybe, I know we are looking at Jordan and we're looking at Yes, but maybe we should be thinking about Wes too, and he just played that card perfectly.
I was just about to say the same thing. I thought of that today. How did he fly under the radar when he's obviously not? And it's because no matter what position he was in, he cast that light on somebody else, which is brilliant.
I'm just like, I'm impressed. He kind of feels like one of those ice skaters who just like, he's going for the perfect landing, and it's like they might fall a lot, but when they hit it, it just hits perfectly. And you're like, this is why he's one of the best at this, because like he doesn't have as many championships as C-tier bananas, but man, the guy can put on a show like no other. He can be grading, but man, I'm impressed. And also like I wrote in my blog, it felt like he was writing fan fiction for himself this season. He wins, and second and third place are his two best friends. What the hell? I mean, like it almost seemed like it's like when people make their fantasy casts on Twitter and they put their three favorite people just like in first, second, and third. It's like Wes got to live his dream.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And like, I'm sure we'll touch on this here in a second, but like, I just want to say too, this was surprising that he dominated this final. Even when he didn't, like, it's almost like he knew he was going to win. He just was so composed that he had a stellar season.
Yeah, we'll just jump into that right now because like we had the kayak. We're gonna jump into the recap of the episode now. Finally, don't worry, we're gonna speed through it. We're gonna speed through this final.
Yeah.
They have the kayak at the beginning. Mark and Kellyanne do well. They come in first. Nehemiah and Kayla, very solid second place finish. Brad and John very middling third place finish. And then Wes and I are like 8 hours behind them, and Wes is just chilling. He's like, you know what? This is the leg I come in fourth. Like you were saying, he's like, I like, you know what? Doesn't really matter. I'll just do better next leg.
Yeah. And I think that was kind of the beauty of the first part of this final was like, you could have a really bad leg and it wasn't going to knock you out of the competition.
Yeah, I'm sure he gave himself a little bit of a pep talk when he was about to get into that kayak with Naya and was just like, it doesn't matter. I'm in a good spot. Like, all this is good. And I think he was so confident in most of those head-to-head matchups, too, that he knows that he can get it right back with 5 points and something else.
They then had the King of the Mountain where you had to push your opponent off a platform. And Mark and Brad really did a good job in coming back in the second half of this final. After being really far behind, Mark demolishes Nehemiah. Brad demolishes Wes. Kellyanne tries her best to, get low on Naya. Naya just flings her into the ocean, taking her own momentum with them. And the surprise matchup, I think we can all admit, was John A taking down Kayla in what was a really good scrappy battle.
I was really surprised. I expected Kayla to put up more of a fight. I actually expected her to win, but I was watching it towards the beginning and I was like, oh, Johnny is like right in the center of this platform and Kayla is not giving herself much space. I hope that she's going to be able to do something about this. And Johnny just kind of handled her. And Kayla has a football background, I think, if I remember correctly. Like, she actually played like a little bit of football, not flag football, like high school, college. Does that sound right?
Yeah, she likes contact. She likes physical contact, and I thought this was going to be Kayla's in the bag. Not to say I didn't think John A wasn't scrappy, but man, John A, man, she really went at it.
That mom strength is real. Like, she's right. Carrying those babies around is no joke.
If Kayla had, I'm going hypothetical, I'm so sorry. If Kayla had won that, would that have put her ahead of John A in points?
Potentially. Luke, talk about the one where they go up the hill they have to walk 100 pounds up the hill. Talk about that right now. I'm gonna go look that up.
While you start doing your math. Okay, well, so they do that. Okay, and that gets points going. Then they have 100 pounds they've got to transfer up a hill. And I really liked Allan's walking up the hill. I feel like that was a play on like running up that hill. Kate Bush, Stranger Things, caught on to that. And Zoe, I feel like that was a no-brainer to just carry all the weight at once.
I think it was if you were in the team that took off first. And I don't think they had any clue that's what the rest of the teams were doing. So fair. I totally agree. They struggled regardless, even with doing it in 2 trips. So I don't know how they would have. I think it would have been the same outcome for them. And this is where Naya's size came, like, it was totally in her favor because she just looked like she was chilling with all those sandbags.
For sure. Like, the second day, Naya, like, as far as like the points, like things go, she was shocking me. Like, throughout the kayak, but like, I feel like if the remainder of the final had just been points, she probably could have come back. And that's a little scary. Like, she still got it in some ways. But I'm like, I get it was ambitious for Kellyanne and was it Nehemiah that she was partnered with? To say, okay, like, let's just get out with our weight. We'll come back. We'll reassess. But I feel like you've got to at least stay back a second to see what everybody else is doing. But, yeah, 4th place was, I mean, like you said, they struggled with the little weight they did have.
But how about John A taking 60 pounds to Brad's 40? That was, again, so badass. Like,
and I'm willing to admit my double standards that I have at the show because I do have them at times. I cannot stand when it's like, oh, I'm a dad, I'm doing this for my kids, yada, yada, yada. And then John A's like, mom strength, I carry my 2 kids. They're like 60 pounds. I'm like, that's great, John A. And it really is, because she was killing it.
You try holding the sleeping baby in your arms for like hours. She's probably got rock solid biceps.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. I got the numbers. If Kayla had won that, then she ties with Nia for first after day 1, and John A would be in that elimination. So that was a big difference. Something I have to note is that after that 4th leg, we didn't get a 4th face-off. We had 4 checkpoints, 3 face-offs, and I broke down like if there had been another face-off and Nehemiah and Brad had won, then Wes would have been in 3rd place. And he would have faced Mark in that elimination. Wes was a little seasick after day 1. There's a path where Wes maybe, doesn't finish the final. I don't think that happens. I think Wes would have won that elimination because he's smart. But also, I'm just saying that there is a path where that happens. Had there been another face-off, there's also a chance where Kayla and Nia tie for points. And I don't think they had a tiebreaker in place for if like they tied for 2nd. And I think that's why they didn't do it, or maybe they just got lazy.
I'm getting too hypothetical now. I don't think that Kayla tried that much with like the King of the Hill elimination for John A. I just don't think she did. I still think John A was going to come out on top. However, if Kayla had won that and John A had come in 3rd place against Kellyanne and Matt, whatever, I still feel like John A wins. Like, I'm not trying to discredit this girl at all. But like, if Kellyanne by some chance did beat John A, I think it's a pretty clear chance at Kayla winning. Now, I did read your blog. I did read your blog about like Kellyanne maybe being a shoo-in to win, but I think I'm jumping ahead. I'm so sorry, but I feel like it's the natural progression. The last like checkpoint of like building blocks, we've seen that stump Kellyanne on the season twice, and her like have meltdowns about it. I don't know.
That was the part that like got me, because Kellyanne, I would laugh if Kellyanne lost the final because she like her tower fell down. That'd be the most Kellyanne thing ever. But Kellyanne is far and away, like Kellyanne is like 3 times the eater Wes is. She's like really good at eating challenges, and Wes looked so dominant compared to everyone else here in this. My screen just went black, but I think we're okay. I think we're okay here
too. Yeah.
Yeah, we're okay here. That's why I think she'd be such a shoo-in to win, because we had some of the worst eaters ever in this final. We'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, there were certain paths to where that 4th face-off did affect things. After the 4th day, TJ tells them, you guys get to sleep in a yacht. You guys don't have to stay overnight and stand on a log. And it's hilarious because Wes was pissed off. He's like, I've been carbo loading for 4 days. I don't want these people to be able to sleep. I want to beat them into a mush.
Well, I was just going to say, before we run away from the elimination, can we talk about the country of California?
Oh, we're going to get to the elimination.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. We're going to talk about the yacht and the elimination itself.
Okay.
So the yacht, it was just, okay. This was the only wonky thing about this final to me, because it just felt like a way to be like, okay, we get you're tired, so we're going to give you a night's sleep, and oh, the money's on the yacht. Like they totally could have gone without that and had them like sleep outside. I don't know. And it was weird to like flash back to John A being like in past finals. And like you said, Allan, or maybe Zoe, we saw the World of Worlds 1 final. We saw like the World of Worlds 2 final, even where like the overnights were just miserable. And it seemed like there should have been a catch for our viewing pleasure, but there just wasn't one.
I was sure there was going to be like something they were supposed to be like memorizing, or things on the boat they were supposed to be taking notice of. Like I was like, oh, they're going to have to like recreate something or remember what things looked like or something. Like I just because the way TJ set it up was like basically like something along like paying attention to your surroundings or like really looking at it. And I was just like, I was convinced that there was going to be some element of memory involved, but nothing. They just got to either take a nice little rest or throw up because they didn't have any Dramamine.
And that's what I was going to say. I feel like editing tried to make it be like, ooh, the big part of this is that like you might get seasick, but it's like, who cares? Like,
well, that's bad luck.
Yeah.
It was just funny to me that Wes, of all people, prepared the most for this elimination, for this overnight part, and he's the one who got the most sick from the yacht stay. It was just, it made me laugh. Of course, after night, TJ tells them that whoever was bottom 2 in points will face off in a crossword elimination. I like this because it rewards those who are at the top. It takes the stars out of play for the final outcome. And I like that it's a mental competition because if it's something physically enduring, then people will be like, oh, this person lost because they had to do this extra elimination. No, it's just a simple mental game. And so we saw Kayla go against Kellyanne and Brad go against Mark, and they had to do a crossword of countries based on their capitals. It was not that hard. Not very hard at all.
And I just want to say, even if you hadn't been in that house studying that list, you could have figured that out. Like they put the board up and I was like, oh, okay. Like basic geography. I've not taken a geography class since I was like a middle schooler. Yeah.
And once you got down to like, if you solved enough of them with the letters that were left, you'd be able to guess the other countries. At least like you'd have an idea based on the name of the city where that country was. Take an educated guess. Kayla had me worried for a second. She seemed completely hopeless. And then she was like, I just guessed that whole thing when it got to the end. And I was like, you just have more knowledge than you're giving yourself credit for because you could not have just guessed that. There's stuff in there.
I think you're right. She's a lot better than she gives herself credit for. She definitely undersells it. Like there was that challenge earlier where she maybe cheated off night. Like I think Kayla is savvy and smart and she plays it well, and she underplays her intelligence. Brad, though, opening this up with California as a country on his map, woof.
This man used to teach children, so throw that out there.
Then he spells Thailand Tyland.
Come on now, Brad. I've rooted for you all season. You're an idiot now.
Brad didn't compete in any challenges in Thailand, did he? Because if he did,
that's where he got his ass beat by Darrell.
Good. Excellent. Wow, Brad.
Can't let Kellyanne get off the hook for putting Cancun either.
And I can't let John Nay get off the hook for being shady. Whenever Kayla and Kellyanne went in against each other, John Nay is the first one to vocalize to Nia, like, what I told you about karma, like, here we go. And I'm like, John A. I love John A. Like this whole podcast is about like giving her flowers. But wait a second. Yeah, don't be shady. If you felt like Kate cheated, you could have to her face been like, yeah, girl, you probably cheated, but like at least you made it. Like, I don't know.
Or like make a joke out of it. Like, hey, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. Like,
right.
Don't blame you one bit. And who knows? Maybe she did, and maybe she's just her social game is that good that she just like is playing all these girls, and she thinks that they think that she's all their best friends.
True.
Everyone was hugging Johnny in this final. Kayla was hugging her. Kellyanne was hugging her. Nia was hugging her. Everyone loves Johnny. Great social game all around. Great player. So Brad, despite the California, despite the Thailand, he still beats Mark in this elimination. So I don't know what that says about Mark. Kellyanne takes the L, and I'm glad Mark came back and actually had like a decent showing in the end, but he knew he wasn't going to win. He was going to come in third or second, like regardless. He's out of the picture. Good for him. Good season. Kellyanne, just a terrible final from a great player. I mean, there was nothing good about her final performance at all. And she said like, I like Kellyanne. I was rooting for her this season. She said like, when I wasn't being sabotaged, I was first place overall. I'm like, you got sabotaged one time and you couldn't build a star for 87 minutes.
True.
Yeah, that was a stretch, a little bit of a stretch. I do though wonder if this final is individual and it's not checkpoints, it is just one extended thing. Does Kellyanne perform way better if she just gets to keep going?
I think so, because here's my take on Kellyanne. I feel like these individual checkpoints made her feel like the focus was heavily on her. Whereas like if it were just straight through, she would forget about that. Like when she feels the lens is on top of her, she crumbles. Like it feels like it's the Kellyanne show, and it's not. There's lots of other people there. And honestly, like again, I don't think this final was wonky. I think it was played out very fairly. But like, Kellyanne could have performed really well in that second leg.
Yeah, the individual portion, I really do think it was built for her. I mean, because when you watch her just run by herself, she runs really fluidly, good pace, a lot of cardio there. But yeah, she's out of this final, and it's crazy because she could have stolen this win off of Kayla, and then just put up a win, and then we would be talking about like how did Kellyanne do so terrible in the final and then pull off the win in the end, and we'd be complaining like she wasn't the most deserving win. It's kind of funny to think about. Instead, she bows out.
It did, so I don't have to have sour grapes because
we
have 2 deserving winners.
Yep. We go into the individual portion, and it's just it's a race. You got to run a lot. You got to do 2 pounds of eating gross food. You got to solve a basic puzzle, and then you got to do stacking of blocks, running, and then you got to swim over to a yacht where the money is. Wes from the jump. Wes from the jump. Killing it. I mean, he literally takes the lead from everyone. He gets to the eating portion. He beats everyone in the eating portion by a pretty big margin, and there's like zero doubt in mind.
I will never forgive production for not cleaning that puke off of his face, though. Like, can we not? I know that you want to show how hardcore your final is, but like, get the puke out of that man's beard. It was so gross.
I agree. And even before we got to the eating portion, and this could be totally editing. Like we've said this many times. You just said it about like the beard. Everybody was running so slow. And they're like, it's all about pace. It's all about pace. The run didn't look that long. And I feel like if it were that long, they would have told us, like, you're running a 6-mile run.
That's valid. Because I was going to say, they don't know how long the run is, but usually when they're about to go on, like, a decent portion, they'll let them know. That's something to think about for the future, kids.
Yeah. But the run, like, I feel like the run is just, like, filler. When we get to the eating, which Zoe just addressed with the vomit. I have so many thoughts on this. Yes, it's like it's an integral part of the challenge finals to have eating. Like we've even seen it in like past seasons as like their purges, things like that. Kellyanne and Nehemiah don't eat meat. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay, Kellyanne is back on meat. She's back on meat because she had the metal poisoning. She needs to eat meat. She told me that.
Okay. Yeah. And I guess she wasn't there, but like had she have been there, I just feel like that's so unfair.
I totally agree. I felt so bad for Nehemiah. I kept just saying, this isn't fair. This isn't right. This isn't cool. Like, I know that, again, it's part of the game, but it's different. It's different when you, like, 15 years. It's not like something that he's doing as a fad diet. He's a vegetarian. That is what he is. I don't know. It was kind of messed up.
And it makes me think of, and God forgive me, because you're gonna maybe disagree. Even Fessy on the Double Agents, like finale. Yes, Casey's knee was hurt. He sounded like a quitter, but like he'd gone all season not eating red meat and not eating during certain times of the day and things like that. And like even on this podcast, like you can go look at what I said. Like I gave him shit about it, but like it just seems like a weird, unfair thing to factor in there. That production could say like, okay, let's add maybe another puzzle. Let's add something else because there's obviously an issue with like how this could play out based on just like morals or just like ethical reasons.
Yeah, and they could have done a weird drink. They could have been a little creative with what they put in front of them. But yeah, I mean, like Allan said, these guys were all bad eaters regardless. So at least he had a chance because everyone else was so horrendous.
True. Yeah, because Wes historically is the person he gets to like the eating parts of finals, and that's where he dies. Mm-hmm. Like that's where he struggles. Like remember CT eating all his puke for him on Rivals 2. Him just dying in that Rivals 1 final after eating all that steak. Like Wes doesn't like eating. It's where he falls apart every time. And compared to everyone else, he looked like a champion. He looked amazing. I mean, Brad, going all these years without doing an eating challenge, Nehemiah literally couldn't. Nia was struggling for her own reasons. And then Kayla and Johnny were struggling. Johnny did pretty good comparison to everyone else as well because she beat every guy that wasn't Wes. What's funny is that, like, I think Corey Warden is, like, my favorite eater on the challenge because he's perfected the idea of just biting and taking a big bite and then puking immediately. And I'm like, you guys got to just start puking as much as you can because they do not give a shit.
They don't. That's exactly what all of them should have been doing. I mean, I did notice there's a couple people, Kayla and Wes, I believe, that were literally making themselves throw up. And I was like, good, do that. That is what everyone should be doing right now.
Yeah, and after this eating portion, Wes just takes it from there. He gets his puzzle done. He stacks his blocks in one attempt. And Brad does get in the water by the time he's there, but it's clear coasting. I do want to say that kudos to Nehemiah for keeping Nia from quitting, because I know if Nia had quit, then she would have taken a lot of hate from fans. Probably would have not been super happy with herself. So I'm glad he was able to be that emotional support, even though they were just so far behind.
Yeah, when she started talking about quitting, I audibly groaned. Like, I literally was like, oh my God, don't you start this. So I think she owes Nehemiah a big thank you, because it preserved a lot of her reputation by him convincing her to tough it out.
I would agree. And like, even last week, I gave her a lot of shit, as I think a lot of people did, for like her complaining about like Kayla cheating. I'm glad she finished the final because I was happy to see her back. I do feel like in some capacities she deserved a redemption season. I hate that it had to be like also her aiding and abetting Jordan get his redemption. But I was happy to see her back, and it made me realize maybe towards the end of the season, like definitely not the beginning, she has more to give to this challenge world and community. Like she can bring that. So I'm glad she finished strong, because like you said, people would have given her shit otherwise.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of moments of suspense with Janae, where when her puzzle tower fell apart, that maybe Kayla could pull a comeback, and Kayla was much closer than Brad to winning, but Janae pulls it out. And we've talked about enough of our winners, but like Kayla and Brad were two really strong runner-ups. They had phenomenal seasons, and then when it came to this final, they just got outperformed. There's no other way to put it. I think they're both great players, but that's what happened. It just happens sometimes, and we're so used to people being robbed and wanting to win. No, they just came in second flat out.
And I think too, it falls down to like, you can be a great daily competitor, but not a great final competitor. And like, I think Brad, I mean, obviously Brad's won a final, Kayla's come close-ish, but like, they're just for really good competitors there. Yeah. I wanted Kayla to win. I wanted Brad to win, but it's not like I can look at this final and be like, that was rigged. Production did that for whatever. It just was a straightforward final.
Yeah, they weren't robbed at all. I thought it was nice, their little moment on the beach, because they had a very similar game, a very similar trajectory throughout the season. So it was cute watching them get their season. Although I did wish they'd at least been able to get on the yacht. I felt bad that Johnny had to celebrate with Wes, of all people.
I agree. And without saying too much, I'm going to be very whatever here. The 4 people on the beach were like, every single one of them said, we would love to come back. Like, we want to come back. We want to like whatever. Who knows?
I'm really rooting for an All-Stars 4. I've really grown to love this rendition of the challenge, and I want to see my girl Janae show up one more time just to see if people can get her out of here, because they would be insane to let this girl make another final.
I agree. I know there's like weird, like, you know, will they, won't they kind of like conversation going on. I would love an All-Stars 4, and you have to have Janae on it.
100%.
Yeah, I'm just kind of tired of like, I'm not tired of All-Stars. I'm just tired of like, how are we getting more challenge seasons without bringing some of these All-Star people back onto the main series? How do we have a ride or die season that doesn't have Nehemiah and Melinda, that doesn't have MJ and John A? Because like these are like the ride or die relationships that I really care about now, and they won't be riding or dying on season 38.
Well, Melinda is pregnant. She announced that today. Congratulations.
Yeah,
but no, I know exactly what you mean. It's like, I guess if we're gonna go there, we're gonna go there. Because you just said it. Like, how do you not have a John A and MJ? Like, you built this whole season up of like, I don't know. I'm going to get too ahead of myself, so I'll say it later when we're not recording. But yeah, it's like All Stars has hit the mark of what we want as viewers. That these other renditions are like kind of falling flat of like, we want good storylines that we can feel connected to. We want people that we can relate to that are not like these all-star athletes. Like, look at John A. First season All-Stars, she was out of shape. Let's call a spade a spade. She still performed well. And she came back the next season in better shape and performed even better, and came back this season in great shape and brought the win home again. Like, she's someone you can relate to. She's someone that you can empathize with. And instead we're left with like someone who got second place on Big Brother or someone who did Survivor in Sweden. All Stars hit the sweet spot, and I would hate if this ended.
It has me kind of hoping, and I know that we got really burnt out on a Rivals type theme with vendettas and Final Reckoning and all this stuff, but I'm like, now you kind of have enough ammunition to bring one of those themes back, like do a Rivals All-Star season, something like that. Like, in my heart of hearts, although this is going to shock both of you guys, I need a Kayla Cara Maria Rivals pair in my life so bad. Like, it needs to happen, and All Stars is the perfect place for it to happen. I think there's so many cool opportunities within this to bring back one of those old themes that fans loved. Just do it, Paramount.
I that would whether I want any theme with these All Star shows. Give us Inferno. Give us like badasses versus good guys. What Wes has been mentioning that Kellyanne has an X 87 times because he's hoping they're gonna get an OG X season. If they did an OG X season and brought some really deep cuts back into the world, like you just said, Cara Maria, like what if they brought in Cara Maria and Thomas Buell as like an X? What if they brought in like really weird funky pairs for X's? Because there's some people like back in the day, it would just be so much fun.
Well, and I'll say this:
and Laurel are getting the dub.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. And like you saying that, like there being like some really off the wall names, that's also what All Stars has perfected. Like I think of Steve from last season. Like he was very not known, I guess is the nice way to put it. But All Stars is such a platform where like you can get the backstory pretty easily from them, and they can also interact with the other people from MTV shows who they have a history with. Like it's like even if they're a rookie and they've not been on TV for 20 years, you can connect with them. I don't know. I don't want All Stars to end.
I'm just coming off of Homecoming too, so I'm imagining Jamie suffering through an X's season with Julie. Like, there's so many cool opportunities with these themes.
Oh my god.
Opportunity's so cool that Allan just blacked out for a second because he's like, whoa, this is great. And like, I feel like for the future of All Stars, like, if there is a future, like I'll go ahead and say this. I heard that Ashley Mitchell was called for this season. Cool. If she made it to the finals, she would have dominated, I feel. And like, as much as I'm a diehard Ashley stan, I feel like All Stars doesn't need to bring these people back. Like, sure, we got the West this season and the Kayla. I think Kayla, that was just a grab at somebody who didn't want to go back to the main show, who they knew would be good entertainment, who's an all-star in her own right. But if they do continue this all-star stuff, like I hope they keep it like, I'm contradicting myself, maybe a little OG. I don't know. Like Corey Wharton, I know that he was contacted for this too. Like it'd be cool to see him interact with these people, but it just seems a little bit out of place.
Yeah, I think Kayla feels different to me because, like you said, she's so resistant to the MTV show, and it's hard getting her back onto the main show because she's very content in her life and she's not like really desperate to be there. So I think this was good for someone like her. I totally agree, though. Like someone who I could see winning or like being a very big player on the main show. I don't need as many of those people. I will take a little sprinkle of them, but I don't want it to be half the cast.
Yeah, I would agree.
I just love all the people too who are coming out of the woodworks being like, I'd love to come back, and I just hope I really would love to see just like really random people come back. Man, you mentioned Steve, and like him making fun of Derek's outfit is still just one of like, because he just came in as just like an outside observer. He's like, oh hey, that outfit's hilarious. That's what you're wearing. Because like no one would say that to Derek, who people would know him, but like because he's just like a guy who hasn't been in the world, he's just like, oh, I'm gonna make fun of that because it's just a normal thing to do. I love it.
And he's not thirsty for like a big moment on reality TV. Like they've had their moment. Like in fact, like most of the people that come back on the show, they had their moment on Real World or Road World. Like they're not going to be the standout on All Stars. Like there are a few that are probably more notable for this show, but they're not coming in desperate for that moment, and that makes everything else so much more authentic.
Any other last words about this Challenge All Stars 3 season? About the winner? Whatever. Any last words?
I'm going to say it one more time. Happy for my girl, Jonna. I hope that we get to see her again. She deserves it. And that's it. I'm looking forward to the next iteration of the challenge, whatever it is.
Yeah, super happy for Jonna. Like, undeniably the face of All Stars, which I think is so cool for her. Like, and she doesn't have to be embarrassed about anything she's done on these shows. Like, it's just a cool moment. And I hope that All Stars 1, 2, and 3 open the door for maybe the main show to bring back some of these old familiar faces who still have that competition inside them.
That's our podcast, and that's been our season of All Stars 3. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at CF Confessionals, Instagram, Cabin Confessionals Podcast, subscribe to the YouTube, drop a like. Follow Luke on Twitter at Final Reckoning. The I's are L's.
Just figured out, yeah.
Yeah. Follow Zoe on Twitter at Nani Gonzalez. Follow me on Twitter at the Allan Aguirre. And stay tuned for our Challenge USA Episode 1 recap, which will go up tonight, like around midnight, or maybe later. I don't know. If you're on the East Coast, it's gonna be up late. But yeah, it's been a great All-Star season with you. Hopefully you stay with us for the CBS show. That's exciting. There's a lot going on there. Have a great day.